Hi, everyone, and welcome. I remember when I was a student, and sometimes when I'd have a test question that I didn't know how to answer, I knew that the question was asking for one specific piece of information, but I just kind of regurgitate a bunch of information if I was unsure, and I hoped that the teacher would take pity on me and find the answer in there somewhere. It seems today in the gospel, Jesus is doing something similar. Jesus in the gospel is asked one question. He's asked for one piece of information. He's asked by the lawyer in Matthew 22, "What is the greatest commandment in the law?" The lawyer's looking for one answer, but Jesus actually gives several answers. He responds with several commandments. And Jesus, in doing this, actually is being very profound. It's a very important principle that he is teaching us, and let's see why. This question ultimately that the lawyer asks cannot be answered with one solution or one commandment. Jesus begins by telling us that we must love the Lord our God with all our heart, soul, and mind. This is from Deuteronomy chapter 6, and it's so important because Jesus frames our relationship with God as being a relationship based on love. We're not supposed to fear God. We're not supposed to do things for God because of obligation, but out of a sense of love. But Jesus goes further than this. Jesus then continues and says, yes, but we must love our neighbor. So this shows us that in order to love God truly, we must love the people that God cares about, who is everybody. And this is a challenging message for us because it teaches us that just believing the right thing about God, just worshiping God, is not enough. If we do these things, we might not actually be living a life pleasing to God. In order to truly love God, we must love our neighbor as well. And this is the message really of the Good Samaritan parable. It is the religious men, the priest, the Levite, the people who are believing the right thing about God supposedly, who are worshiping God, who pass the wounded and the person who is in need by. So in order to love God, we must love our neighbor, but Jesus brings this a step further. We must love our neighbor as ourself. Here, of course, Jesus is quoting from Leviticus chapter 19. We must love our neighbor as ourself. And this has two important kind of extensions or another two important commands. If we must love our neighbor as ourself, then we must first and foremost love ourselves. And this can be a challenging thing because sometimes we can find what is negative about ourselves, but true humility really is being grounded in the truth. Sure, acknowledging that I have difficulties and struggles, but also seeing the goodness that is in there, in my life, in my person from God. In order to love my neighbor, I must first love myself. And also another extension from this is the fact that in order to love my neighbor, I actually must like my neighbor, find good qualities in them. Sometimes we can say, and I say this myself sometimes, okay, Jesus said we have to love everybody, but he didn't say we had to like everyone. But actually to love our neighbor as ourselves means we must like things about them, search for good qualities that God has put into their life. So Jesus then in the gospel is asked one question, one command, but he shows us that actually this answer has several parts. We need to love God, but in order to love God, we need to love our neighbor. And in order to love our neighbor, we must love ourselves. And actually, love of neighbor means liking them, finding the good that is in them. God bless you and take care.